The other day I packed my bags and headed down to London to catch a flight to Vegas. Look who showed up. The flight went very slowly. I struggled to sleep and I ended up just staring at the map for quite a while. But before I knew it, we'd landed. Right, so we made it to Vegas, but we nearly didn't.
It was a bit of an ordeal at the border control because I declared an orange.
Frankie declared an orange, and then I realised that I also had an orange. Then he said, "Why didn't you say you had an orange?" I was like, "I forgot I had an orange."
And then we got taken into the back room. As the guy walked off of our passports, we didn't know where he went or how long he was going to be.
I also had a tiny chunk of cheese, and we were sat in the room, and I was like, should I tell him about the cheese? Eventually, after what felt like an hour, we came back, searched our bags, and we got on our way.
We had to sacrifice the oranges. We had to trade them to get our passports back, otherwise we were going to get deported.
Was it a worthy sacrifice?
I don't know, it was a nice orange.
I also won my orange.
If you come to America, don't bring any fruit, nuts, animal products.
No easy peelers. Oh dear. We're here. We made it. Oh, okay. We've officially arrived. So me and Frankie got settled into our lovely Airbnb with Blaze and TJ, the crazy Americans we'll be staying with for 3 weeks. The next morning we headed straight onto the strip. I really wanted to head straight to the Bellagio. I remember it's such a beautiful casino and they have this amazing conservatory which has a completely new display from last year. Some crazy stuff like this zebra and these chess pieces were so cool. And we were just like, how on earth do they build this? Do they make it outside of the Bellagio or do they build it in there? It's just absolutely surreal being in there and the smell is amazing. I know they pump oxygen into the casinos, but you just feel so alive being in there. We then decided to toss some coins into the fountain for good luck. Can't throw it on the tiger.
But I will really want to. 1, 2, 3.
And there was only one thing to do next.
To the slots!
We are on the bonus game. Don't know what it means, but
Super fast
it's happening.
Something great.
Something great.
Hopefully that.
Hopefully this guy. Me, Jake and Blaze decided to split a few spins on the slots.
Yes!
Nothing crazy, just a bit of fun.
Yes!
Always gamble responsibly, guys. And if you're not having fun, you should probably stop.
Oh, I've seen this. That's a 3 by 3. Yeah.
Oh, shit!
Alright.
I just did one more.
3 more.
Let's go, Jake.
Got 3 spins of it.
Okay, my last go. It's on you.
Been you all along.
Yeah, it's always been you.
Way.
Go! Woo!
Oh!
We ended up doing well on this random machine we'd never played before. We then did that classic walk into the Horseshoe, where the World Series of Poker is hosted every year. They have around 700 tables, it's absolutely massive, it's 2 large ballrooms and then the room with the main event final table. This is the Paris ballroom, it's absolutely beautiful and just crazy being in there. The sound of poker chips can be deafening. We then headed out of the shoe into Paris and down to a restaurant called Alexa's where you get an amazing view of the Bellagio and the fountains. There they go. We ordered this Caesar salad where they make it at your table and you can ask for as much Parmesan cheese as you like. Okay, I'm heading to Normandy to play my first bullet of the summer, playing the 250 Deepstack champs. Let's go. So as well as the bracelet events, they have side events, including 3 daily deep stacks at different buy-in levels that you can jump into. I thought it'd be a great warm-up for the series before I start grinding the bigger stuff next week. So me, Frankie and Blaze jumped in and we all did a cheeky 10% swap. So there's this rule at WSOP where you can register the event, but you don't have to sit down at your table straight away. So I got to my table and I'm like +3, so I'm like, oh, I'll wait. And then I realized there's 9 minutes until the end of late reg, so I'm like, oh, I have to sit down at some point. And now it's getting like closer and closer to the big blind, so I'm like, I don't know what to do. And I ended up jumping in with like 10 seconds left onto the small blind, avoided the big blind, and got in the tournament. So it's a funny rule, but you got to do it, especially off 16 bigs. You've got to try and avoid that big blind. Before you say it, it's not cheating. It's been endorsed by Daniel Negreanu. It's within the rules, although you may have to face some angry dudes at the lower buy-in who don't agree with it. So my first hand of WSOP, as we like to call it.
The WSOP, yes.
I like the smolder. Jack 5 off. What was yours?
I don't remember.
Boring. And then I had Jack 6 off, so I was like, right, we're on the up. And I said to Frankie, who was sweating me, she just burst, rip. I said to her, if it's lower, I'm leaving. And then I peeled 7 deuce off. It's on like portrait mode. It's like highlighting us, isn't it? Look at this.
Cute. Ooh. Wait, little.
Oh.
Censor that out in post.
It's my first ever WSOP dinner break.
Dinosaur arms.
Where should we go, guys?
Club WPT Lounge.
Let's go.
I'm collecting my run ribbon now. Just
Yes. Okay, guys, let me tell you about some crazy hands that happened in this 250 deep stack whilst I'm sat by the pool. So when I got there, I regged with 16 bigs, super short. I ended up folding the first 2 orbits. I didn't have a hand to play. There's a lot of geezers in this tournament, a lot of old dudes who are recreational, old school kind of guys playing for a bit of fun. And since I did that, it meant they assumed that I was a nit. So I finally pick up a hand. The cutoff opens, and I look down at ace queen suited in the small blinds. I have 10 bigs at this point. For those of you that don't know, the small blind is pretty much the worst position to play post flop because you're always out of position, and it's just really difficult to navigate sometimes, especially if the big blind calls as well. So a lot of the time, the strategy in the small blind is to just go all in and try and take the pot down, even when you're 20, 30 bigs. But I had 10 bigs here. But ace queen, I don't want to play that post flop. I just want to get it all in and potentially pick up 4.5 big blinds. I'm increasing my stack by 40%. If it gets folds, if I get calls, I'm pretty happy. But this is also very high up in my range. I'm going to be shoving all of the pocket pairs from pocket 2s up to pocket kings. Then I'm going to be shoving things like 10 jack suited. There's going to be a lot of suited Broadway hands, things like king jack off. They're just going to be all in. So ace queen suited is a really nice hand, and I'm happy to get called because I'm hoping to get called by things like ace jack suited, ace 10 suited, where I'm going to dominate them a lot of the time. So anyway, this guy, I think he assumed I was a nit and only playing aces and kings. He folds face up pocket 10s, and you'll see my face here being like, wow, okay. Kind of got away with that one. It's good for me because it means I don't have to flip. But also, if he calls, it's fine. It's crazy because he'd already put in 2 big blinds, meaning he only had to put in an extra 8 big blinds for this flip. And you are absolutely priced in. If he knows 100% of the time he's going to be flipping or similar, he is priced in. He's putting in 8 big blinds into a total pot of 22.5 big blinds, which means he only needs about 30% equity to make a profitable call. Like mathematically, he has to call there. So then I go back into folding mode, and a few orbits later, I'm down to 5 big blinds, so super short. Lovely guy on my right, he limps the button. I look down at ace 5 offsuit in the small blind. This is fairly high up in my range, and I'm kind of sure that I can get some folds from him and take down this pot, which is a huge increase to my stack. It's 3.5 big blinds, so I'm increasing my stack by like 60%. So I do shove. I'm hoping to get called by something like, even like ace 2, ace 3, because he limped the button. He has a lot of stuff in there. Maybe like 7, 8 suited, something like that, where I'm going to be ahead a lot of the time. And I don't think mathematically he can fold much there. But maybe he just didn't want me to go home, you know? There's also the thing that some players won't necessarily be calculating your stack size correctly. They're just playing and they make an assumption. Maybe he thought I had way more. And they're recreational players, so they're not necessarily switched on to exactly how many big blinds I have. or they're just going a little bit off feeling and what they think I have, making it up as they go along, basically. So yeah, I got away with that. I then shoved pocket sixes with 9 bigs in early position and got called by ace king and won the flip. I was quite short for most of this tournament, so there's not actually many particularly interesting hands. I did have one hand with jacks where I opened mid position, got called by the big blind. The flop was king 6-5, 2 diamonds. I decided to check it back this time. I don't think it's a c-bet range or anything, especially getting closer to the money. And the turn was another low card, a 9. Decided to bet my jack just for some protection and hopefully get called by a 9 at this point. And he did call. The river was another 5, pairing the board, and he checked. And the good thing about betting the turn as well, I get to check back. So I did that, and he showed a 6. So yeah, picked up a nice pot there. So I actually folded jacks on the button. So there was an open from under the gun. I had 6 bigs at this point, and I pretty much knew that I was going to make the money if I just folded. So I decided to fold the jacks here. I figured I have no fold equity, and if I call, it's likely going to have an over, and then I've got a 30% chance of losing to what he had, which turned out to be ace 8 suited. And I saw the hand play out, and if I'd gone for it, would have been an ace on the river, so that would have been a brutal way to bust. So I'm glad I played the bubble all right and made the money. Immediately into the big blind, 5 bigs, 3 left behind. I put in my remaining chips with king queen offsuit, and unfortunately run into ace king. I was actually very happy to be away from the table.
Why is she not answering?
And I also had a headache and was ready to go back for some sleep and some water. So yeah, got the flag though. That's all that matters. Got my first USA cash, and I'm ready for next week. It's going to be a big week, so make sure you like and subscribe to keep watching the vlog. And then my mate Frankie treated me to a helicopter ride after winning it in a charity auction. I was absolutely buzzing for this. I've never been in helicopters before, and it was just incredible. As soon as we took off and turned around and you could see the strip, I was like, holy shit! I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It was crazy. We flew all the way down past the Strat and around Fremont Street in downtown Las Vegas. We then looped round on the other side and turned in past the Luxor, and you get that amazing view of the strip on the left here, going back home to land. Would definitely recommend doing this to anyone.
Soft bubble declared. But if there's 10,000 people in the event, then it's 20 people soft bubble. If there's 200 people in the event, 2 people is soft bubble.
So back at the flat, we were discussing what our definition of soft bubble is, based on the fact that a lot of people say they soft bubble when they didn't really, they were just getting kind of close. So we're talking about the main event, 10,000 entries, 1,500 make the cash. What counts as a soft bubble?
10,000, yeah.
50 is not soft bubble.
You come in 1550. It's a little soft bubble.
If you think of the bubble
and
as
you
like
bust,
getting closer to it bursting, like when it starts slowing down, surely that's the start of the
yeah, when
soft
people
bubble.
are
It gets closer
massively
to a hard bubble.
stalling, and people are
If you start
really...
doing that 500 from the money in the main event, is that soft bubble?
1,500 out of
I
10,000.
think somebody's got to set mathematical boundaries for the soft bubble.
1,500.
We gotta call it.
20.
Oh, so you're going 20? Okay.
Yeah.
That's much more reasonable.
That's approved by the Tej.
Can you finish 1550?
5 entire tables.
I'd go 100.
100?
100?
That's more than a lot of fun.
No,
That's
actually.
ridiculous in the barf bowl.
Let's not talk about that.
There's no way you can say, 99 people from the money, soft bubble.
I think 100's too.
I said it for the reaction, to be fair. Let me know in the comments what your definition of soft bubble is here in this situation. Alright guys, this is how we're gonna grind the summer. Got a t-shirt. I'm not sponsored by these, so don't buy them.
4 big blind stack can fold their way to the money. you are in the softball.
Thanks for watching, guys. Hit that subscribe button. There's going to be some great tournaments coming up and plenty of content. I'll see you then.
No, that's a good definition.
I don't like defining it in that way.
We can't say by big blinds.
course
Because
you
it can
can.
be relative.
No,